If this agreement ultimately succeeds, I have nothing to gain except a sense of pride that we helped unite the game we love.
Officials from the PGA Tour testified before a Senate panel on Tuesday to defend their decision to merge with the Saudi-backed LIV golf circuit. But concerns over the Arab nation's involvement in the U.S.-based golf tour run deep.
Today's hearing is about much more than the game of golf. It's about how a brutal, repressive regime can buy influence, indeed, even take over a cherished American institution to cleanse its public image.
Richard Blumenthal, who chaired the panel, was most critical of the deal and questioned why the PGA Tour ultimately sided with the Saudis.
It's a regime that has reportedly killed journalists, jailed and tortured dissidents, fostered the war in Yemen, and supported other terrorist activities, including the 9/11 attack on our nation.
PGA Tour Chief Operating Officer Ron Price explained the two rival golf tours had been involved in an expensive, bitter legal fight that split the sport, which he said was unsustainable.
We faced a real threat that LIV Golf, which is 100% financed by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, would become the leader of professional golf.
PGA Tour board member Jimmy Dunn expanded on the threat LIV posed.
The PGA Tour it's not that big in terms of players. So if they take 5 players a year, in 5 years, they can gut us.
The way out, Price said, was to reach an agreement to unite with its rival, but added the PGA Tour would have a controlling interest.
The agreement provides clear, explicit, and permanent safeguards that ensure the tour will lead the decisions that shape our future and that we will have control over our operations, strategy, and continuity of our mission.
Critics have accused LIV Golf of being a vehicle for Saudi Arabia to improve its reputation on the world stage, or what's known as sports washing, as it faces criticism of its human rights record.
What is the amount of the Saudi investment that is going to be made?
That has not been determined yet, Senator.
Has there been any discussion of what that amount will be?
It would be, there's been discussions, it would be a significant amount.
What are the amounts that have been discussed?
North of $1 billion.
Blumenthal also pressed Price on whether the PGA would protect players who speak critically of the Saudi government, and got a lukewarm response.
We would try to protect their interests.
That is less than what I would like to see as a commitment here.
The Justice Department, which has been investigating the PGA Tour for trying to keep its players from defecting to LIV, could opt to sue to block the deal. It could also be reviewed by the Committee on Foreign Investment, which assesses.
As the Ukrainian flag from the war front lines goes up near the NATO summit in Vilnius, the message from the Western Security Alliance to Kyiv is that Ukraine belongs on the team eventually. Ukraine's future is in NATO, a leader's declaration read on Tuesday, a sentiment echoed by Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg.
We also made clear that we will issue an invitation for Ukraine to join NATO when allies agree and conditions are met. This is a strong package for Ukraine and a clear path towards its membership in NATO.
What exactly those conditions are isn't clear. NATO members have previously agreed Kyiv cannot join while it's at war. Still, Ukraine had hoped for an invite or timeline during the summit. NATO will make Ukraine safer. Ukraine will make NATO stronger. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told the flag-raising crowd in the Lithuanian capital. Earlier, he said it would be absurd not to get a timeline.
And if you look at all the membership processes, there have not been time lines for those processes. They are conditions-based, has always been.
Hours before the meeting start, Russia attacked Kyiv with drones, underscoring that the Ukrainian counteroffensive is unfolding more slowly than Ukraine had hoped. Still, NATO has dropped the requirement for Ukraine to fulfill what's called a membership action plan, effectively removing one hurdle for getting in. It also vowed to work with Kyiv on military interoperability and other reforms. And Zelensky did score other wins. Germany announced new aid worth over $770 million. And following a similar announcement by Britain, French President Emmanuel Macron said Paris would start supplying long-range cruise missiles. That move was slammed by the Kremlin, which said it was watching the summit very closely.
President Joe Biden's nominee to become the top U.S. general warned at a Senate confirmation hearing on Tuesday that a Republican senator's blockade of military promotions could have a far-reaching impact across the U.S. armed forces.
We will lose talent.
General Charles C.Q. Brown made the comments shortly after being questioned by Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville, who has used his Senate procedure to block hundreds of military nominations from moving forward because he believes the Pentagon is improperly using government funding to cover travel costs for abortions for service members and their dependents.
There's several factors that I think about as we're going through this and how we are working to mitigate the challenges associated with the holes. There's aspects of readiness and the transition in leadership, and for our young service members to know who is in the position of leadership that's qualified, has the experience to be there, and not, in some cases, putting we have strong deputies, but at the same time, they don't have the same level of experience going forward.
An aide to Tuberville said his block would also apply to General Brown, who Biden has nominated to become chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, succeeding outgoing Chairman Mark Milley. Brown currently serves as the Air Force Chief of Staff. The military is already having to shuffle staff to fill a top leadership post at the Marines. Democrats, including U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren, slammed Tuberville for punishing uniformed military leaders who were not responsible for the policy on abortion travel that he was protesting.
If the senator from Alabama continues his reckless action, he will soon be holding 650 leaders who have served their country honorable hostage.
Brown is a former fighter pilot with command experience in the Pacific and has been warmly received by the Senate. He fielded questions on China, Russia, and Ukraine throughout his 2.5-hour hearing.
Donald Trump has asked a federal court in Florida to postpone his criminal trial over his alleged illegal retention of classified documents. Prosecutors had already asked District Judge Eileen Cannon for a delay until December 11th from an initial date of August 14th, so as to give both sides time to prepare. But attorneys representing the former president, who is once again seeking the White House, want the judge overseeing the case to indefinitely delay the trial, saying a December trial date would deny them reasonable time to prepare, and described the government's requested schedule as, quote, unrealistic. The U.S. Justice Department did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
My office will seek a speedy trial in this matter, consistent with the public interest and the rights of the accused.
When special counsel Jack Smith announced the 37-count indictment of Trump and an aide, Walt Nauta, last month, he said his office wanted to move quickly toward trial. Smith, who has a degree of independence from the Justice Department, was appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland to oversee all federal criminal probes into the man who is currently the Republican presidential primary frontrunner.
I had every right to have these documents.
Trump has pleaded not guilty in federal court to charges that he unlawfully kept classified national security documents when he left office in 2021 and lied to officials who sought to recover them. In this week's filing, Trump's lawyers said a December trial was untenable due to the scheduling demands of his presidential election bid, multiple other criminal and civil cases pending against him, and a potentially large amount of evidence they might need to review. The judge set a July 18th hearing over how classified information in the case will be handled.